Good morning, sir. How are we today?
Morning, Al. How are you? All good? All good.
Very well. We've got a good one today.
We've got a good one today because it involves using fish, which we haven't used so far. You're using salmon, I'm using cod because this recipe goes with either. And it also involves using couscous, which is a super healthy way of getting some extra protein and energy and carbs at the same time. So it's a good one all round.
Super.
We're going to be doing couscous and the fish simultaneously because it's quite a quick and easy recipe. This, if someone wants to do this at home in the week, it does not take long to prepare. And once you've done it once, it's very, very quick and easy. First things first, now, is to turn your oven on so that it's hot.
Yeah.
And don't put things in cold ovens when you're cooking. So turn it on now because it will be perfect. For me, it's 190 degrees. I don't know what you've got, Al. Have you got gas or electricity?
Electricity.
Have you got a fan oven or a non-fan?
Fan, I reckon.
Okay, it's 190 then for you. That also involves a good cooking technique, which is for the French name unpapillote, which basically means we're going to create a parcel in the oven with all of the food in it. And we're going to seal up that parcel. We're going to make it out of tinfoil today, but you can make them out of the different recipes. You can make them out of paper, make them out of baking paper. And the idea is that all of the food goes in there with the veg and the protein. And when it steams up, because there's a little bit of liquid in there, it cooks everything without overcooking anything. And it's a way of getting good flavour into things, and it's a delicious, quick, easy way to cook.
Sounds like a plan.
First things first, Al, I know this is slightly different to the recipe out there, but I think we'll start with the couscous, and that's because the fish only takes 11 minutes to cook, and the couscous takes about 15 if you let it settle afterwards. So we'll just start the couscous off. We're going to use two different methods. You're going to use the single bowl method, and I'm going to use the fry and put it into a big pan method, but it doesn't matter. The main thing we discussed off camera is that both of us today are going to use stock instead of water. This is couscous, and all of the grain vegetables out there do not have much flavour. And when people are trying to do healthy eating and they try some of these, they always say the same thing, which is that they're really boring. They know they're good for them and they know they fill them up, but they know they're boring. And the part of the reason is these things, and I'll hold up to the camera, are literally white or brown grains. They do not have much flavour. If you cook it as per the packet instruction, it will say to cook it with water and it will be fine. But if you cook it with some stock or with any other flavourants, you could put little bits of chilli in there on a different recipe, you could put anything in there, it will add more flavour and the whole eating experience will be better. And so we're going to make ours with stock today because we've got some left over from the recipe later anyway. So it's perfect. So as per your instructions, Al, your couscous is to put in a bowl and to cook it that way. So we'll do yours your way.
So I'll put the couscous into the hot water.
Yeah, into the hot stock.
Into the hot stock.
Make sure you save 50 ml of the stock, Al, for later, yeah?
And the couscous is going straight into that now, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring that liquid up to the boil, Al. Have you saved 50 ml?
Yeah.
Right, so we bring that up to the boil.
Yeah.
And on your hob, that shouldn't take too long, Al, because it's not too much water. Have you got a lid for that pan?
You got what, sorry? A lid?
For that pan.
Yeah.
Cool. As soon as it starts boiling out, we're going to put the lid on and we're going to turn it down to a simmer, which will be about 3/4 on yours. Let me just go and shut my patio doors. Sorry about that, Al. The next door neighbours are having an extension and they started drilling. I had to go and shut the patio doors. Not very professional, I appreciate. So now that's simmering, we're going to simmer that for 8 minutes, okay? And then when we take it off, we're going to let it sit for the remainder of the time because it will go all fluffy.
So when it's simmering, it's just a very slight bubble.
Absolutely right. You're looking for bubbles to be rising, but it's definitely not a boil.
Okay.
Right. So, first of all, because we're going to put the vegetables into the tin foil first and we're going to put the fish on top of it, we're going to prepare our vegetables. So the vegetables for this are chili, garlic, which isn't really a vegetable, cherry tomatoes, tender stem broccoli and spring onions. I find what you're looking for, Al, is some bites and pieces that make a difference to your plate. So for the 2 spring onions, I'm going to chop them up into about 1/2 centimetre pieces.
This is the first time I've ever used spring onions.
Oh, they're delicious. They're absolutely delicious. If you like onions, they're lovely. Don't use the hairy last slice.
What about the white bit? The hairy?
No, use all of that except for the last tiny bit of it. So cut off the hairy bit, but then because that other bit's really nice. Basically, we're going to keep all of these veg on our chopping board as and when we do them.
All the ingredients in this dish are basically what I've been talking about over the last few nutritional videos. We've got complex carb with the couscous, great protein with the salmon, and good unsaturated fats in there as well. And then a collection of vegetables. So.
Yeah, and this will be very tasty as well. It'll be tasty because of the chili. At the end, a little topping of cashew nuts, but the fish will cook in the stock we're going to put in there, and so it will have real flavour. It'll have real flavour, and the couscous will, of course, make it feel like more of a meal. If you miss the couscous out, you'd be having the lightest of lunches. It really wouldn't give you much energy, and if you're working out on that day, you would need the couscous. So the next is to chop the chilies out. If you want this to be hot, you leave the seeds in. If you don't want it hot, you can remove the seeds. I'm leaving half my seeds in roughly. And then you just want to cut it into little slivers and put it with the spring onion.
Are these more than just circles?
Circles is fine now. You're really just trying to get the chili small enough so that whenever you have a bite of this meal, there is some chili in it, but not all of the chili. That's what you're really trying to achieve. The bite and the texture for this meal is going to come from the couscous and the broccoli, which we won't cut up as small, the broccoli.
And the broccoli's been chopped as well?
No, I'm just leaving it long and thin, like I'll hold one up.
Yeah.
The ones that are fatter, Al, this one was a really fat piece, so I cut it down the middle. So I cut the stem down the middle. And my pieces are about the same length as my little finger to my palm of my hand. They're about 3 inches sort of thing. If you've got really heavy woody bits on the end now, you don't need to serve them if you don't want. So you're cutting those off if they're really thick and hard, because it will be nicer with just, we're not using much of it, so it'll be nicer with just a bit of tender stem.
And the tomatoes getting a chop in as well?
I halved them. I halved my cherry tomatoes out. Give them 2 small cherry tomatoes, they'll dissolve in the cooking.
We've basically got everything in this meal, haven't we? Antioxidants, tomatoes.
Yeah, we've even got the little bit.
What about the garlic?
Garlic, just chop that up as small as you can. I use the same microplaner for all my garlic, so mine's already goes very, very fine.
So I need to take the outer layer off.
Yes, absolutely. Peel the papery skin off. Absolutely.
Is it worth me bashing this up in my new smasher?
Just bash it up with the back of the knife. Can't use your new pestle and mortar on that house. Although if you do the old, if you
just chop it up, yeah.
do the fajitas again, that pestle as you can go, fine as you can go. You can always crush it yourself if you ever want to.
Okay.
Right, how's that going now? So we've got all the vegetables prepared now. Quickly have a look at your couscous before we do anything else. How's it looking?
Yeah, looking dry. I don't need water on that.
So,
Liquid. Starting to stick.
yeah, so give it a little whiz round now. It's only got 1 minute left. If it's starting to stick completely, just turn yours off and leave it there with the lid on, and it'll be fine.
Tastes nice. Much better with the vegetable stock.
Yeah, it's much more interesting with any stock. If you were doing a beef dish, then use beef stock. If you were using chicken dish, chicken stock, anything you like to add a bit of flavour there. So now what we want to do is we want to get our kitchen foil to make our parcel out. Now I have got 2 sheets of kitchen foil, one underneath the other. trying not to get a hole in this. So, yeah, good idea, Al. 2 layers of kitchen foil. What we're going to try and do here is create a parcel around our food with no holes in it, because we don't want the stock or the juice to drip out while we're cooking it. We want everything to be contained within. So first things first, we're going to make a pile of our vegetables in the middle, and it's going to be roughly the same size as our fish, because obviously we're going to put the fish on the top at the end. It doesn't need to be pretty at this stage, it just needs to be a place where the fish is going to sit on top of it. So don't drive yourself mad for appearance.
So we've got broccoli first?
Yeah, I put the broccoli on first because it makes a little bed I'm going to put the fish on, but don't go mad, I've just literally grabbed mine off and just shoved it on the top.
So everything on there?
All the vegetables that we've just prepared, including the garlic. There you go, that's a little parcel of veg.
Okay, so far so good.
Right, so we drizzle half of the tablespoon of olive oil onto the top of that.
Half of a tablespoon.
Yep. That's right.
Okay.
A little bit of salt and pepper on there, Al. Great stuff. Now we're going to take our fish and we're going to balance it on the top.
With the salmon, cut the skin.
You've got skin on your salmon?
Yeah.
We will cut the skin off that, yeah.
Salmon's the one for the protein and the unsaturated fats.
Oh, absolutely. And it's delicious as well, Al. It's a delicious fish to eat. If you were barbecuing that salmon, you could leave that skin on and get it crispy, but for this recipe, it won't crisp up.
Just straight on top?
Absolutely.
There's one more to come.
Nice one, Al. Nice one. Then what you want to do is you want to bring the foil up. Oh, you've got a little bit of salmon there. Make sure you use it all, Al. Make sure you use it.
I was thinking. Just get this little bit off as well. Okay.
Perfecto. Alan, are you making this for you and Chrissy again? 2 people?
Go, yeah.
Are you making it for 2 people?
Yeah.
Okay, just bearing in mind the amount of stock you've got left. Okay, so now what we're going to try and do is we're going to fold up our tin foil, and we're aiming for it to finish up as a parcel. But it doesn't need to be beautiful, but it needs to be waterproof because we're going to pour some stock in there. So you're not sealing up the top at the moment. I'm just creating a little open parcel so I can still see my fish down below. It doesn't need to be absolutely immaculate looking. So just rustle it up the side. Yeah, keep going like that. That's absolutely fine. Remember, you're going to have to bridge it across the top at the end, but we're going to put the stock in first. So leave enough, yeah, that's right. Leave enough foil at the top like that, floating about in the air. Start making the thing. You still see your fish though, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfecto. So a little bit of salt and pepper on the salmon. Perfect. And then we're going to pour the stock in, and hopefully it's not going to run out all over your work surface, Al. Hopefully you've got a little waterproof moat there.
Okay, let's give it a go, actually.
Give it a go, Al. I've poured mine in and it hasn't come out, so I'm happy with mine. How much stock have you got left, Al?
About, it's nearly 100, actually.
Yeah, that's great. I was going to say you need 100. I was saying 50 earlier for you, but I forgot you're making it for 2. So 100 is going to be great. That's great.
So just
Yeah, it'll all turn into steam in the oven. It'll all go everywhere. Right, so when that's in there,
yep,
you're going to seal up this parcel so that it will be completely waterproof inside. So I've got a little bundle of food, basically. Try to have no air gaps out. Yeah, that's right. I see what you're doing there. That's right. Right. Is there a chance that yours has got an air gap?
Yeah.
Okay. Get another sheet of tin foil out. Yep. Big enough. Yep. Do that. And then wrap the whole thing once up in it so that we know it's airtight. I'm sure it would have been fine, but we don't want the air. We don't want the steam to escape. Yeah. There you go. Great. Perfect, Al. You just put that on your oven shelf for 11 minutes. Stir around out, but leave the lid on because we've still got to prepare our toppings.
a couple of burnt bits.
It's nice and warm. That is super tasty, that couscous, Al, you're right.
I think I might have overdone mine a bit. It's a bit spongy.
Let me see.
A little bit spongy.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Mine's with the same.
It's okay. It's edible, but maybe I had the gas on too much.
Maybe. With the lid on, it should have been fairly well. Get your 20 grams or 40 grams in your case of cashew nuts.
I need to bash mine up, don't I?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was going to say.
You want to do the toy?
Right? Yes. Good usage. Good use of the toy, Al.
It's first use.
Now, we don't want them to be powder. Don't get carried away with that toy.
So much better than my spoon.
Right, excellent.
Okay.
Lemon juice. We're going to need 2 teaspoons roughly, or 4 for you.
That's just straight out of a lemon, yeah?
Right, that's just basically to make fish taste nicer. At the end, you put a little bit of acid on the top, like I always say about using some acid. In this case, lemon juice. It's going to go on at the end when we put the cashew nuts on there. And it's, when I say a couple of teaspoons out, if you want, you can just cut the lemon in half and squeeze it straight on there and not measure it. But I've cut that in half and I've squeezed it into this little bowl so I can actually put it down. It does not need to be exact. You're really just adding flavour. Whenever I cook, I like to get all my ingredients ready at the start so that I can sort of quite quickly move through. But it's just really personal preference on how organised you want to be.
What are you trying to say?
No, I'm not trying to say anything out. I'm just saying that as you get used to it, especially if you do any baking, so in our house, Ruby does the baking. When you do baking, you need everything to be so precisely measured out that you get into the habit of just lining up all these little bowls that I always have on the top here that have got a little bit of everything in, just so that it's easier to do it. That's the only reason I do it. Because when you're suddenly reading a recipe and it says stir while adding that and then wait for that, and so you've suddenly got it all to hand, that's the only reason I do it. We've got the recipes now ready for the next few weeks out, haven't we?
Yep. Organised, haven't we?
All systems go. All systems go. Take the lid off your couscous if you think it's getting overdone.
Yeah. Yeah, I've taken that off some time ago.
If people want to have chickens, to use chicken stock instead of vegetable stock because they're not a vegetarian, obviously this meal is vegetarian with the exception of fish, and some vegetarians eat fish, so it's a good choice for them, and they must use a vegetable stock. If you're cooking this recipe with cod or with salmon, and you want it to, and you don't mind having a bit of stronger flavour, you can use chicken stock if you're not a vegetarian, and it will still be absolutely fine. Some people think that you shouldn't put chicken with fish, but that's actually completely wrong. And if you go to many posh restaurants around the country, they will give you chicken stock on your fish unless you tell them you're a vegetarian. And that's because most chefs prefer to use chicken stock all the time.
What are stocks, Mike?
So yes, I make my own stocks. I didn't today because we're doing this recipe for everyone. And I used I used one of these. I know you used a stock cube. I use one of these Knorr stock pots, which is like a gel, because I know the ingredients in it are just chicken and vegetables. But you can make your own stock so easily and it tastes so much nicer. A stock is just a liquid that's been infused with something else for a long period of time. So in our house, whenever we have roast chicken on a Sunday, we normally have 2 roast chickens, and at the end, there's all the bones, all the bits of meat, the skin, whatever's left over. I put that into a massive pan. I fill it up with water. I put in 2 carrots raw, 2 sticks of celery raw, and an onion raw. And then I just cook that, let that simmer for 3 or 4 hours. And at the end, I strain it so that I've just got the liquid. And when it settles, you'll get some little bits of animal fats at the top. So I scoop that out so there's no fat in it whatsoever. Yeah. And I just use that and I just put that in the freezer so I've got my own stock. And that is the nicest stock you can have. Buying these stock cubes is fine, but if you make your own stock, you will have much nicer tasting food. It's the secret to all busy kitchens that you go to when you go to a restaurant, is that they've spent the day making the stock so that the night has much nicer food. they'll have different stocks for every dish they make. And cooking with stocks is quite easy to do. You can Google how to do it at the drop of a hat, and it's a very easy way. It also gets rid of, it feels like you're using all your chicken bones and chicken everything after a roast chicken as well. So that's how we do it. And I do that in my house, actually. We do use our own stocks all the time. And all I do is I freeze them in these. So we get these bags that stand up that you buy from IKEA or Sainsbury's. They just stand up in your freezer. And that's got 1 litre of chicken stock in it. And I just open the bag chicken stock and just put it in the freezer for the day I want it. It's fine to freeze. The problem comes with stocks, if you're doing a little recipe like this and it says 50 ml of stock, you don't want to defrost a whole bag of a litre of stock just to make it. So that's when I use these little Knorr stock cubes like we did today, like both of us did today.
I mean, this is what I was quite interested to work with you, Mike. As we said at the start, it's about trying to find ways that makes the sorts of ingredients we would put in a plan more tasty. So rather than it just being, broccoli, fish, and couscous, it's what can we do with the inspiration of a chef to make these meals more tasty? Without adding lots of calories.
We've got 3 of them here, 3 absolute classics. We've got the stock making the couscous nicer.
Yeah.
We've got the cashew nuts and lemon juice going on the top, which will heighten the flavour of everything. Yeah. We've got the little bits of chilli in there. And chilli has good few properties as well. It slightly speeds up your metabolism. It gets yourself going. It's a good thing to eat a small amount of chilli, but it does lift your taste buds up while you're eating it so that you taste everything else. And the other classic is a little pinch of salt on things. Don't forget to put salt on. Don't be scared of it. I know people say salt's really bad for you and it can lead to strokes and heart attacks. You're talking there about people who have diets where they've got far too much salt in them. Yeah. A little pinch on something you're cooking is not going to change your risk profile there. And it's just going to make things taste so much nicer.
So I think something like these cashew nuts, I was talking last week about fats, and nuts are one of the things that are good in unsaturated fats, but are also high in calories. So if you're just eating lots of nuts, then you stand a risk of adding a high amount of calories. But doing what we've done there, I don't know how many nuts were in there to begin with. There wasn't that many, but now you can see there's a lot of flavour that's going to go down to the food.
And it will taste delicious because a cashew nut has got a very nice flavour to it, and so it will go really well. And it will also add another texture to this meal. If you add different textures, we'll have the broccoli that's quite firm, we'll have the fish that's quite soft, we'll have the couscous, and then we'll have the nuts, which will have a little bit of a crunch in it. All of these things are ways to trick the mouth into eating things that taste much nicer for the mouth to have.
Yeah.
All of these things will help our eating experience. It will move away from being boring functional food into the sort of food you get when you're out. This one in particular will taste delicious. The flavours will be lovely. Mm-hmm. 1 minute to go out.
Very good. Have you got any tips for last few times I've been cooking broccoli? I say broccoli is one of my go-to foods, a little bit like eggs. But it's so boring. I found since we've been cooking, I've started using much more of the spices on the steak and things like that. I've been using the garlic and the onion spices, and I feel like the steak is lovely. And then I've also been cooking the spinach. I've been adding a bit of ginger into that, and that's lovely. But then the broccoli is just in a separate bowl, and you can really notice the difference when you've got all the taste in the other ingredients, and the broccoli just tastes so plain.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come back to that. Let's get our fish out and leave it on the side for a second now. We're going to leave our fish to settle for 2 minutes while we talk, and that's just because you want the proteins to relax. It doesn't matter that it's out the oven, it will just all relax in the parcel fine. So we'll leave that out. Yes, Alan, you are correct on the broccoli. You are so right on the broccoli. Number one, it's a good food, it's a nice vegetable, but it's quite cumbersome to add flavour. It's a bit like cauliflower. And cauliflower, of course, is what people just put in a cheese sauce and serve as a delicious cauliflower cheese, which is absolutely not healthy. So We're not going to do that with broccoli, even though you can do it with broccoli. What all of the restaurants are doing now is they are charring it. And the reason they char it is because when something gets that little barbecued edge to it, it will taste completely different. And the way you do that at home is you cook it normally, but you cook it for a little bit less so it's still firm. And then when it's finished, you either flash fry it in a grill, in a pan with no oil, so that it's a little bit on the edges, or you put it under your grill and it will toast on the outsides and it will go delicious. And if before you do that, you put on some herbs that you like, so a little sprinkling of paprika or a little sprinkling of oregano, it will just lift the flavour up. And that's how you add a little bit of flavour to broccoli. Broccoli is delicious, and this tender steak we've got today is a nice way of eating it because it's not quite as much of a mouthful. If you've got young children in your house, getting them to eat broccoli is hard work, but getting them to eat tender stem broccoli is a good first step. So that's not a bad method. However, I personally love broccoli and I just steam it and I just put salt and pepper on at the end. But if you go to a restaurant like the Fox today, they will serve you broccoli and they will have burnt the edges of it. And that's how they're getting more flavour into it. It's not burnt, it's called char grilled and they love it.
Right, thank you.
So I'm going to open my parcel carefully, Al. Carefully, because I don't want to burn you. It's fine now, it's cooked. It's not a disaster if it all runs away. But we put juices in there to be on the grill. But you'll probably need to unwrap your outer layer and finish with your parcel as it was going to be, so it's, you can get into the top of it. So first thing that goes, have you opened yours up, Al? How does it look? Let's have a look at yours. Yes. So first things first, into the bowls goes the couscous.
Into the parcel.
No, onto the two plates. Are you doing plates or bowls or what are you doing?
I'll get 2 plates.
I'm going to do this little cute bowl I've got. I don't know why. It doesn't matter that it's not baking hot, the couscous, because the liquid from the fish is going to heat everything right back up again.
Okay, so what we doing? Put the couscous in on the plates.
Yep. Nice one out. I'm going to need a little spoon. Yeah, that's good out. Now we're going to move your fish slightly to one side in your foil so you can get to the vegetables underneath. You can be quite gentle with it, but it won't break too much apart the fish. It should stay as sort of whole pieces. It doesn't matter if it flakes apart. A flaking fish is a good sign that it's been cooked perfectly. How does yours look on the cooking front, Al?
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. So now I'm going to spoon my vegetables on top of the couscous. You're going to have to divide yours up between the two. Be careful of the tomatoes, Al, because they will be very hot.
Certainly smells nice, as always.
Yes, I love having nice smelling food. You must remember that when you put down food in front of people, and I'm including yourself in this, your eyes and your nose see the food and smell the food before you eat it. And if they're happy with what they see and they smell, you will think the meal tastes nicer. That's why all of these restaurants go so mad on presentation. Right, so once you've got your veg on there, don't worry about the juice that's in the bottom of the wrapper, Al. Keep all of that stock that's in the bottom there, keep that ready. And then position your fish on top of both plates evenly. Yep, nicely done, nicely done. So now we're going to make a little funnel out of our juice so that we can pour it from the tin foil onto evenly over the two plates. Nearly time to eat this, Al, and I have to say, this looks really nice. Excellent. A little teaspoon of lemon juice on each one.
Lemon juice just over the top?
Yeah, on the fish, on the fish. And a little light, gentle coating of the old cashew nuts. Scatter them over everything. There you go, Al. I hold my bowl up because I use cod, so it looks slightly differently. I did it in a bowl as well, so it does look different. I'll take a picture of mine, Al, before I eat it.
All right, that's good. Look at that.
Look at that, Al. Proper cooking, double quick time, nice one. Slightly early for lunch because we've actually finished quite quickly.
Yeah, no, that was a good meal. Didn't take so long.
No, and also if you got it down perfectly, so you timed the couscous and the cooking of the parcel, so they finished at exactly the same time, you'll have nicer couscous than you've probably got. Although mine has held up and not gone too mushy.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I've done wrong is the couscous. That's just a little bit
mushy.
Yeah, I'll have a play with that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you can do with couscous, I'll just say quickly before you go, is if you made it in advance, got it to exactly the consistency you like to eat by just tasting it in the pan.
Yeah.
As soon as it's at that consistency, you need to stop it cooking. Yeah. So what you do then is you take it out of that, put it in a normal bowl, put some ketchup on it and put it straight in the fridge. The fridge will cool it down and it will be cold. It will be cooked exactly as you want it. When you then want to come and have your meal, you gently warm that up in the microwave or on a pan, and it won't cook anymore, and then the fish will go on and it'll all be warm anyway. Yeah. And it'll be absolutely fine. And you will be able to pause the cooking by doing that. Yeah. You can do that well in advance.
Yeah, I mean, couscous is a great alternative, isn't it, to rice and pasta? I'll be honest, I don't really do it myself. But I one of the things I'd like to do more of, just to add a bit of variation, because otherwise it's almost, rice or pasta.
I'll let you go and eat it. Nice one.
Top man, Mike. Enjoy that.
I'll for you out and send it over.
Top man. See you soon. Cheers.